Dutch has got a plan, boys. We've got one more goddamn plan. And you can see here an artist's interpretation of the Dutch having their plan. They're thinking super, super hard. Do you want to know what the plan is?
Yes, please.
Let's hear it.
We deport people who hate us.
Wow.
Whoa. Controversial. I hear that's racist.
Who cares? Because what does that word even mean anymore? I mean, we're talking here, for people who don't know, this lady here, Syra Rao, saying F America, F Israel, the end. She's kind of irrelevant, her tweet, but you may remember her because she once debated Carl about racism, and Carl brought up,
Oh, yeah.
he brought up the concept of like, oh, what if you were racist against white people or sexist against men? And she literally blue screened.
Yeah.
Like, dun, 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 dun. She just like looked up and then just went, no, that doesn't exist, and then left the debate.
I remember seeing that all those years ago.
Is that a rage quit? Would you call that?
I think it's a blue screen more than a rage quit.
Oh.
She couldn't comprehend the concept and then rage quit.
All
It was
right.
just like, I can't talk to you. This is
Oh, her mind actually just flatlined.
yeah.
Right.
You see that quite a lot, actually, especially like in street interviews when someone's going up to woke types talking about these things, and they like, if they're asked one of those sorts of questions, they just stop and then they just walk away.
Yeah.
Literally, like NPC, like they've reached the end of their code.
Yeah, is calling men rats who need to be exterminated,
Yeah.
sexist against men, and they're just like, I don't understand. So
Yeah.
what? This is the most I've literally given you the easiest question on earth, but whatever. But here's the plan. I look forward to attempting the plan. And the reason I bring it all up is because, as everyone has seen on their timelines, Dutch, the Netherlands, Holland, whatever the hell you want to call those stupid half-German, half-English swamp Germans, they've decided to have an election. What?
A little rude. I like the Dutch.
Yeah, the
I've
Dutch
got
are
a soft
good
spot for the
people, yeah.
Dutch.
Oh, who doesn't? But they are
Yeah.
swamp Germans. That's their cutesy nickname.
Okay. You mean that as a term of endearment? Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
You know, like the sausage munching krauts or the frog eating frogs. So, you know, that's how the British show affection. At least some of us. So they've had an election, as you can see. Most of it's been counted. It's amazing, isn't it? You can count 1 million odd votes, or however many there are, in one night. Arizona, like a month. But whatever. No. We're just talking about the Netherlands today. So the Netherlands have had their election, and as you can see, right at the top, the PVV, Geert Wilders. And Geert is a hell of a comrade. He is someone who has been fighting for, 20-something years now?
He's been around for a long time. Yeah.
In his own party, which has been explicitly them talking about the foreigners. They're very different, maybe less of them. That's basically the policy point. It's been almost entirely focused on Islamic immigration. I mean, the man even called for the banning of the Quran at one point, which I don't know if he still stands by. Don't pay attention to Dutch politics if I can help it. But
I do know he made a film or produced a film a few years and years ago now, like an anti-Islam film. And yeah, part of his policy was to ban the Quran and close all Islamic schools. But apparently just in the run-up to this election, he sort of eased back on that a bit.
well,
But apparently that really helped him in the polls, though.
I'm not surprised.
Like, that made the difference. But yeah, he's
won. I mean, we can see, I suppose I'll go to the next one for the map. I mean, that's a pretty good victory map.
Yeah.
To keep in mind as well, of course, the Netherlands has, I think it's proportional representation with some tiny threshold.
It's like 0.67, I think.
Some tiny.
Yeah.
So he's been around for a long time. I think he first entered Parliament in like 2006. And so I remember him coming to like the Free Tommy rallies to give a message. We'll get back to that because he wasn't actually allowed into the country. But the story. And he's been fighting for this movement for so long. And now he is the biggest party in Dutch politics. And as you can see, they're utterly dominating the countryside. I do love any election map in the West. You can just tell where the cities are.
Yeah. Yeah, I've become pretty open to proportional representation, actually, because of instances like this.
definitely.
You know, because actually, once you get your foot in the door, you can work within the system, like this guy has. And now, we see this.
It's just fairer. It's as simple
Yeah.
as that. It's just fairer.
Well, genuinely, you can get a movement which is supported by some percentage of the population actually represented.
Yeah.
Even in a small proportion. And it's not nothing. Having 1 or 2 MPs is such a good ground to then build on your party. Whereas if you're UKIP, you can get, like 20% of the vote and get 0 MPs.
Yeah.
Hi folks, we've rolled out a new feature on the website, which is the ability to pay for an individual piece of content. So usually it's £5 a month every month to subscribe to all of the content on the website. But I appreciate there are going to be people who simply don't want to do that. They would be interested instead in purchasing a single piece of content for a lower amount and they've got a particular niche that they're interested in watching. And so they don't want every single piece of content. They just want this one thing. So we've introduced this function where you can just simply purchase the one thing for £1.89, which I think is about $2.30 at the current exchange rates. And then that's just yours forever. So there's no sort of commitment there. There's no rolling subscription. It's just that one thing. So that's an option now that's on the website. It's completely live. It's completely available. And please go and enjoy it. And we'll see you all very soon.
I mean, this just isn't a system that actually shows the population that they have any input. Whereas this is pretty cool, as you can see, which, I don't know. I don't know what's been going on in Dutch politics. Don't speak Dutch. Why would I? And so we've all kind of been weirded out in the sense of that Farmers Party blew up a while back, probably about anything anyone remembers, against the attempt to try and destroy all of Dutch farming, which was good. Everyone's proud of them. And now they've done this, which is mass voting for the Geert Wilders, which is great news. Because, I mean, the man is on our side on the position of, hey, maybe we should have a Netherlands that is Dutch and exists for a lot longer.
It's interesting. I have a Dutch friend, actually, and he was telling me about, in the run-up to this election, the fact, I mean, he lives in the UK, but obviously he has family and friends in the Netherlands. And he was saying that there is genuinely like a grassroots movement against immigration and against Islam and that sort of thing. It's widespread, which is the case in many places.
And the EU, another one of Wilders' sort of main things is that he wants to leave the EU and the euro and everything, I believe.
He's basically Eurosceptic, right wing, usually described as a populist, but they're just popular. So kind of a pointless statement.
I've never understood why or how populism or to be a populist is derogatory in any way. It doesn't make any sense to me. That's the classic leftist inversion of what's real or true or right.
Because the right thing to do is be an elitist. But only for our elite.
Yeah, like to use it as a pejorative that you're a populist. Like, what's wrong with that? What are you talking about?
But getting to the opinion polls, because this is what I found super interesting. And again, not my sphere. When we're talking about foreign elections, I know some, but not this one. And you can see here, you got the PVV jotting around, being pretty good. But then at the last minute, utter surge from about October-ish, or maybe even June, July. There's this massive surge for them, which then makes them, as polling here, the second biggest party, and now they're the biggest party in terms of seats. Which, well, that's interesting. I don't know if you boys have noticed something, but there was this like date in October in which all of a sudden, the day before, if you talked about deporting people, you were put on a list, and the day after, it was like mainstream conversation about mass deportations of people who hate the West.
And the Overton window miraculously shifted suddenly for no reason. Something happened.
Something happened.
And the Overton window finally moved.
And you can see here the Netherlands had the exact same something happening as we had, which is, for some reason, a large percentage of the Dutch population felt very strongly for the Palestinian cause. And you can see here them occupying Amsterdam Central Station because, why? I mean, just more generally. I remember this before Andrew Tate converted. There's a good clip of him where he's in London and he's walking down the street and he sees a Palestine protest. And because this is before he's converted, he's talking to the camera and says, what are any of these people doing? If you want to support Palestine, go there. You want to support Israel, go there. Like, what are you doing? Living in the West as a Muslim, saying I support Palestine. It's just...
And now he's happy that the Trocadero has been turned into a giant mosque. So
yeah, Andrew Tate has had quite the transformation.
So that's Andrew Tate for you.
But getting back to the point, I mean, it's just true. Like, what are these people doing here? It was right about that back in the day. And it goes on. Apparently, they were occupying an airport as well, which I'm not really sure, again, what the point in any of this is.
Well, it's a show of force, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, but what is this person doing? From the river, from the river, from the river, from the river? Just written on her head with a wicker hat?
Well,
we're not even talking about like someone from the Arab world here. We're talking about, what, matron? Who's gone mental.
Yeah.
Look at the glassy-eyed...
Don't you have grandkids still?
Glassy-eyed insanity.
Yeah.
Anyway, this
traitor boomers.
This whole thing, this whole movement in the West, I mean, just look at these women. The white women, at least, I can understand. Like, you just want some attention. It's kind of embarrassing. But to see it happen in the same way in the Netherlands, I can't help but wonder if it's the reason, or at least one of the main reasons, why there was that sudden surge for Geert Wilders, whose explicit policy is deport foreign conflicts by deporting their people, because why would we have them here? Don't like foreign conflict. Seems same to me. There have been some responses to Geert Wilders' victory as well. As you can see here, I don't know how to feel about the fact that a quarter of the country just voted for a party whose leader wants less Moroccans. Well, I have a suggestion. I mean, you could feel this way. So,
Yeah.
Drudker has pointed out.
Feel however you want. That's a you problem.
And, well, yeah, that's the will of the people. What do you want? Sorry, do you hate democracy? I love democracy right now.
I think there was a reply on that original tweet as well, where it's like, how dare you not want loads of millions of foreigners in your country?
Just everyone's
It's like,
based
yeah,
gut.
top one there.
Yeah. Oh my God. Some people don't like their country being flooded with foreigners. How could they?
Yeah.
It's truly unbelievable. I do like that the zeitgeist on Twitter definitely has changed. Like when someone posts some crap like this now, sure, they'll get some response, but mostly you'll just get people being like based, which that's cool. But, you know, Drudker here giving some ideas. This is a real photo, by the way.
Really?
Right. There's that. But that's the point. If a leader of a European country comes to power whose main goal is, well, my ethnic group should be represented in its culture here and shouldn't be extinguished, and you have a problem with that, you're free to leave. Like, I'm sorry, you don't have the right to force the supremacy of Moroccan culture on the Netherlands. What the hell's wrong with you? Like, we are actually anti-imperialist about that, and you need to go if you are going to be an imperialist about that. That's just fair. And I wanted to mention, as earlier, that Gert has been a good friend of the British right for quite some time, which has been interesting. You can see here, this is a video he sent to the Free Tommy rally. And the Free Tommy rally was being held because Tommy Robinson was arrested for filming outside a courthouse where he asked the alleged, now convicted rapist, how do you feel about your sentence? And the police instantly arrested him, ran him through the court system, like, I don't know, that meme of the girl with the 7 black guys. There was just nothing proper about it. And so there was a mass movement to get him freed, and a retrial occurred. And Gert wanted to come and give a speech at the rally and tell everyone, you're in the right, keep fighting. And he says in here that Theresa May personally intervened to ban him from the UK. He was deported from the UK. He's not allowed in. But 700,000 people a year are. So there's that. But getting to that story as well, I just wanted to remind people just how bad this is, because I can never get over about how just horrible the Free Tommy situation was. Sorry for bringing it back up, but this is the media spin, just to remind everyone of how bad things were.
Was Tommy given a dodgy lawyer?
Tommy Robinson was given an experienced barrister, an independent barrister. He was given exactly the representation that anyone in that situation would be given.
But hang on, his supporters say. He was arrested and sent to prison in a day. That never happens.
You've got to understand that contempt happens in the middle of a criminal trial. And in order to stop it, you have to deal with it often there and then, because the nature of contempt is that it potentially can derail the entire trial.
Basically, because the risks of contempt are so serious and can threaten justice being served, the cases are dealt with as swiftly as possible. So, is Tommy Robinson innocent? No, apparently not. And that's not just the opinion of the court, that's the opinion of Tommy Robinson himself. When he was brought in front of the judge, he pleaded guilty.
But the hashtag Free Tommy supporters do make some valid points, according to this leading barrister.
They're right. He wasn't given a fair hearing. It was rushed, the wrong procedure was used, and his lawyer wasn't given the opportunity to properly mitigate for him, which is to properly argue against the length of the sentence that he was being given. So Tommy Robinson's supporters are right in the sense that he wasn't given a fair hearing. Where they're wrong is that this was some kind of conspiracy against him. It really wasn't. It was a cock-up rather than a conspiracy.
Which is why we all suddenly agreed he had to go. I mean, I'm sorry, it's the same outlet, the same individual. Like, the media are just utter scumbags, but all on the point. And it's the same situation in the Netherlands. It seems to be the same in every country on earth that they're like this. And so there are a couple more responses I wanted to feature. Sadiq Khan.
Tommy can always flee to Tel Aviv if he needs to.
Well, one of those days, he may. But you can see here, Sadiq Khan decided to respond to Gert being elected by saying, a reminder to progressives everywhere. The continued threat of the far right is real and on our doorstep. Why?
Thanks, Mayor of London.
Why? Why is the threat real? Why is the far right on your doorstep? Why are they gaining ground in every country on earth, as you put it, such as Gert Wilders here? Well, it's because the progressives have fucked up every European country they get in charge of, even slightly. I mean, with Sadiq here, I mean, we're talking about the massive surge there because of the, well, massive threat of people who support Hamas in the Netherlands. And then, I'm sorry, you're the mayor of London. I can't get over this.
But that's the thing. I mean, far right is obviously just a slur and an attack that's used to discredit people.
It means pro-European state.
Yeah. But I mean, this Geert Wilders, he's not actually far right by any definition, because one of the interesting things, and one of the things that I'm not so sure about with him, is that his anti-Islam position comes basically on liberal grounds, from what I can understand, in that he says about, look at how they treat their women and their gays and all the rest of it, instead of the position that I and perhaps you guys would take, which is it's just a foreign religion that doesn't have any place in Europe, really.
I mean, he mostly does it on factual grounds.
Yeah, I've seen him talk about that still integration is desirable and stuff like that. Yeah. I mean, his crime, quote unquote, along with Tommy's, is noticing that there's some problematic verses in the Quran.
Yeah.
That's it, isn't it? That's the crime, ultimately, is that you're noticed and prepared to say it.
And they're problematic verses for even liberal ideology, which is hilarious. That's the big crime, as you put it. But one other thing happened about the same time this election took place, which is the Dutch police decided to release crime statistics by country of origin of data accumulated over 10 years and over 2 million data points. So we've seen some of this released in the past with not that damn Dutch, the other ones that begin with D, the Danes. They released some data a while back. They were like, hang on a minute, seems that all of our criminals are Somalis or Afghans, and then just released it. And everyone was like, Jesus, this is really racist. I was like, what? No, it's crime data, you fucking morons. Like, some Euro ethnic groups are more prevalent in crime than others. But the Dutch, I think, probably have the best data analysis of all time we could ever ask for here. And you can see the map. For people listening, there's a bunch of countries, broadly could be described as NATO and China. For some reason, those ones, lower expected crime rates than, I don't know, what else?
Algeria, Iraq.
Yeah, that middle part of the world that
Congo or something?
no one goes on holiday to for some reason.
Nigeria.
That's all the red part. And this is a thread of the data points and the most interesting aspects. So I thought we'd just go through it because it's good to know, if nothing else. So point number 1, individuals from non-Western immigration backgrounds make up 14% of the population in the Netherlands. However, they account for a large proportion of sexual offences, 35%, assaults, 40%, drug offences, 40%, and violent thefts being around 60%. Despite being 14% of the Dutch population, 61% of violent thefts are caused by non-Western people of an immigration background. Amazing. Amazing how mathematics are like a universal truth. And it goes on. You can see here, this map here is showing you the rate of crime. So given in aspect to the proportion of people from a certain country, what's their chances of being more likely to be a criminal. And as you can see, it goes as high as more than 3.5 times likely to be a criminal to a Dutch national for, Morocco, Algeria, Angola, Congo, Somalia, Iraq, all the good countries. The ones you would want more immigrants from, I'm sure. And it goes on. I mean, I love here, point number 3, the suspect rates for populations from the Maghreb region are even 5 times higher than those of the Dutch of no migratory background. 5 times. It's just mad. I mean, we usually talk about the problems we have with like the Pakistani community being overrepresented in crime statistics, or the Afghans. Maghrebi apparently is dominating the scene.
Yeah, that's North Africa, Northwest Africa.
Yeah.
Algeria, Morocco.
And then behind them is the rest of Africa. Before we even get to Afghanistan. But there's one in here that's incredibly funny. I can't remember which point it is exactly. But there's one where someone points out, I think it's this guy, of the different groups that are expected to be those who commit crime and then end up in the prison population. And the Dutch aren't even in the top 20. That's not in this thread. It must be in another thread somewhere. My apologies for not having it. But literally, they list like the Moroccans, and the first Europeans you even find are the Bulgarians at number 20.
Jesus.
And that's the top 20. Your own population isn't even in the top 20 of, criminals. It's just mad.
I mean, for Northwest Europe, but I mean, particularly Dutch. I said at the beginning, I've got a bit of a soft spot for the Dutch. They're very civilized people. Very, very polite, very civilized people.
That's why we're able to have banter. It's like the Welsh or something.
It's like Britain, Scandinavia, Germany, all that. Of course, they're not destroying the very fabric of their own country. Of course.
It might be someone else. And this is the problem. And this is why you end up, of course, having Geert Wilders getting in the polls as he did, which is not only have we got the problems we ran across with like grooming gangs or whatnot, just petty issues.
Mm.
The level of crime massively spikes as you import loads of people from foreign countries. Why is that? Well, you go to those countries and ask them about the ones they've sent, and they're like, yeah, we sent you the criminals. Why wouldn't we? It was like after Islamic State fell, and then suddenly there were lots of refugees from Iraq and Syria.
Mm.
Yeah, where in Iraq and Syria? Supporters of Assad? No. Were they supporters of the Iraqi government? No. Loads of people from ISIS who supported ISIS, who suddenly needed somewhere else to live, because if they stayed in Iraq or Syria, would have rightfully got the death penalty for, well, crimes against humanity. And instead, they just come to Europe and we're just like, oh, suddenly, Al-Kazam, he's now a refugee.
Some care for Calais woman just insisting you're a Nazi if you've got any problem with it.
Yeah.
Right.
And, well, this is not only good news for the Netherlands, of course. There we are. I do have the data. So this is the rankings. So top 20 origins by suspect rate for crime and offense. And this is for the Netherlands, Angola, Somalia, Morocco there at number 5. Is the UK on here? No, we're not. Bulgaria is just at number 20, the only European country in the top 20. So nil point for the Dutch.
It doesn't even need to be said, especially on this podcast, but like I wake up some mornings and I think like it is absolutely bonkers that Europe finds itself in a situation where it's got just enormous numbers of people from, who have no reason to be here. And I think that when this period of history is recorded and taught 200, 300, 400 years down the line, I hope at least it's going to be sort of like, Europe kind of lost its mind for a few decades and just started importing millions and millions of people who ended up committing loads of crimes and, causing havoc. And then anybody who complained about that fact was just called racist and was attacked and defamed and lost their jobs and lost their, and all the rest of it. Like it's an insane situation that we're in right now.
I think you're right. I've actually thought of that exact thing, that how will this period be looked at in decades or even centuries from now?
Yeah.
And I think it will be looked back upon as a type of crazed abomination of a thing. Yeah.
I think it can only be understood as being like, this is the post-World War II period that we're living through. And it's part of that kind of mental damage that whole sort of series, that event
took all the wrong lessons.
Yeah, basically.
Misunderstood everything you could possibly learn from World War II and took out the message of import everyone.
Yeah, but Europe hasn't, we're still recovering from World War II, even though it's not, I don't know. Even though it's not at the forefront of people's minds, I think psychologically, Europe is still recovering. And this is a symptom of that.
Remember, of course, it has been dictated to us from up on high. For decades, most of the normal people have said we don't want mass immigration.
Yeah.
And yet it's still happening against our will.
Where else would the Angolans go? I mean, Angola is what? Well, I don't know, 300 times bigger than the Netherlands? I don't bloody know. But it's massive. We've got the Congo here. There's no other place in between the Congo and Netherlands where these people could have stopped and settled and started a family and built a business. No, instead
I guess not.
No, they just had to come to the Netherlands. Why? Well, I don't know. Maybe they were fleeing the law. And it's not just the Netherlands. We can see here, these are the German elections, which is the ones I'm actually really excited about, because the sad news about this is the predictions are that Geert Wilders is not going to become prime minister because he won't be allowed to build a coalition, because being 25% of the vote, it's not a majority. Dutch politics is always coalitions for some combination.
Like you need 75 out of 150 seats, and he's got, I think, 37. So we need to build a coalition, and all the other parties have said no deal. So,
I mean, it would be quite funny if he turned around and said, I'm willing to negotiate literally every policy point except immigration, and they'll still say no. So we're just utterly exposed, but that's for him to do. But the important thing for me, I think, is Germany, because the EU really is Germany by other means. And seeing Germany flip on this would be, I mean, Lord, I've seen what you have done for other nations. Can you please do it for our friends and us? And you can see here the AfD now polling there about like 20-something%, the second biggest party, and they've been there for a little while. And as you can see, there's also a small boost for some reason. Maybe some people have started to wake up, and I hope more do, about the effects of, well, what the Christian Democrats have done to Germany. But otherwise, good news all round, I think, which is good luck the Netherlands, and we hope you more victories in future. If you appreciated that episode from the podcast of the Lotus Eaters, you can go to lotuseaters.com to get access to all the premium content that's on the site, such as the Lads Hours, this one on Is 2024 Our Year. If you'd like to find out what else is being put out, you can follow on Twitter at lotuseaters_com on Twitter. Thank you and goodbye.